People want to hear what they already believe. I could give you examples. Can you honestly say MSNBC doesn't do some of that?
And for instance, with the Mueller report, I'm going to help him out.
You're going to help him
out a little.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm going to hurt him.
Let's see.
I worked at the Department of Justice when the Mueller investigation was going on. That was a chief part of my job. And there were news organizations, let's just say, that kept telling their viewers that Trump was about to get thrown in the gulag and was going to jail for the rest of his life, when that was clearly not what was going on.
Well,
I like to have her go first. I never know what's going to happen. I covered that story. I love MSNBC. I love working there. I would defend our journalism, although, yes, you can find and we should be open to constructive criticism about any reporting. But if you want me to speak about my reporting, I mean, we know each other. Like, I never said Trump was about to be indicted, quite the opposite. And we did a piece, for example, flagging that Mueller is very careful, and we showed all of his past congressional testimony, which is super boring, as a preview to how the report was going to go and how his testimony was going to go. I do think the media has this responsibility, and it definitely sometimes falls down. So we all have to be open to that.
I remember reading that they did a study of Republicans versus Democrats. The question was, what percentage, this is like a year and a half ago, what percentage of people who get COVID require hospitalization? The answer is less than 1%. Almost half of Democrats thought it was over 50%. They listened to your network. Where do they get that kind of information?
That was to you. That was clear.
Okay, that's bad information they have in their head, and it's from one side.
I'll tell you this. I think you make a really fair point that if the press is hunting a narrative instead of facts, then, as you say, you can pull even true things into that narrative. I'm still going to double down on defending. I think we do really good journalism, and we had people on my program on The Beat, since we're talking about the media, where we brought on skeptics about all these issues. We brought on someone from California, actually, who was in the height of COVID protesting the quarantine rules because they said it was creating more harm than good. That's a policy debate.
President Biden received a clean bill of health yesterday following a routine physical exam at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland. In a memo, Biden's personal physician wrote that he, quote, remains a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. The medical assessment noted that Biden had a small lesion removed from his chest during a dermatology consultation. It was sent off for a biopsy, and the results are still pending. We tell you all of this so that we can, I don't know, take a trip down memory lane.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah, why not, right? It's always good. Here's Dr. Ronnie Jackson after Donald Trump's physical, if that's what you want to call it, when he was president in 2018.
Explain to me how a guy who eats McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and all those Diet Cokes and who never exercises is in as good a shape as you say he's in.
It's called genetics. I don't know.
Yeah, called genetics. He went on to say, John Heilman, that Trump had such great genes that if he didn't eat badly, he'd live till he was 200 years of age.
Did he mean dad genes?
I guess the shock of it is that actually people in the Obama administration actually vouched for this guy for 15 minutes before he started doing this. But again, just the lies started rolling off of his tongue, and I guess have continued over the past couple of years.
I mean, look, I would say just to stand up for the good doctor here on one point. I mean, you know, if you think about Trump's diet over the course of his life, you think about Trump's the way he's taking care of his body, if you could use those words, taking care and his body in the same sense. You think about the stress of the presidency. You think about his sleeping patterns. You think about all things we know. I mean, the fact that the guy made it out of 4 years of the presidency alive is an amazing thing. Like, I mean, if I had that diet, that lack of exercise, and those sleeping habits, I'd be dead now. You know, so there is something to the notion that he does have some kind of extraordinary genes. It is the case that the Trump men, historically, and his family have lived to ripe old ages in general. So I don't want to give too much credit to Dr. Jackson. Obviously, you know, the dude is a whack job on a lot of levels, but there is something kind of amazing about Donald Trump that he's still out there. that he's still erect, that he's still upright. You know, it's like kind of an incredible thing.
Yeah.
Didn't Fred Trump have really bad dementia at the end, though?
Yeah, both of his parents lived to their 90s.
Joyce, I want to end with you. My question is, I predict the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, indicts Donald Trump. Whether you end up getting a conviction, that's left to be seen, right? Is there an issue vis-a-vis jurisdiction? If you get an indictment for Donald Trump by Fulton County DA Fani Willis, and then Jack Smith tees up an indictment, which I think is going to be first, and Hugo, we've talked about this, Mar-a-Lago. We think Mar-a-Lago Doc's case is going to be the one that's going to be the first up by Jack Smith. Is there a concern that they can't coexist? These two indictments can't travel at the same time in any way?
There's no concern that they can't coexist at the same time. There are cases where you see defendants indicted by multiple jurisdictions. There's some procedural issues where judges have to consult with each other on the timing. There are questions about when a defendant goes into custody pre-trial, which jurisdiction will take that defendant into trial. But those are situations that the legal system is well accustomed to dealing with. I don't see that as a problem. There's an interesting twist, though, Katie. There's a little-known statute that permits a federal official who's indicted in state court to remove that indictment into the federal court. That here would mean the Northern District of Georgia. And that would be a strategic consideration for the former president. Which jury would you rather have, Fulton County or the Northern District of Georgia, which is a large jurisdiction that leans a little bit more conservative, maybe a lot more conservative than the county does, if you think political beliefs influence jury outcomes. So it's possible we could end up seeing, to some extent, federal involvement in both of those cases. This is the kind of strategy that Trump likes to pursue. He likes anything that injects uncertainty and delay into proceedings. And a removal into federal court would certainly accomplish that goal here.
One-word answer from you, Hugo, and then to Joyce. Do you agree Fulton County DA comes up first for an indictment on Donald Trump?
Yes.
Joyce?
Maybe.
Oh, spoken like a true lawyer.
If her test that she wants to apply to anybody over 75 is for mental competence, I do think we should apply both a test for kind of political competence and civic competence to every one of these Republicans who runs. The political competence should be, if you're a former, especially if you're a former member of the Trump administration, are you willing to take on Donald Trump by name? If you're not, please go home. And second, are you willing to say straight up, first question out of everybody's mouth should be, guys, just want to double check with you. Is Joe Biden the legitimately elected president of the United States? If there's any equivocation on that matter, let alone denial, you've failed the civic competence test. And again, thank you for playing. You can go home. Those are two tests I think that are more important than the mental competence test.